One of the biggest traps OCD sets for people is convincing them that their thoughts, their uncertainties have to be completely resolved before they're allowed to feel okay. That if there's uncertainty at all about something, a thought, a feeling, a situation, then something is wrong and it needs to be solved right now. But real life doesn't work like that. Real life is messy, unclear, unfinished. And something fascinating happens when people start recovering from OCD. They realize that uncertainty and well-being can exist at the same time. You can feel discomfort in the background and still laugh with your friends. You can have doubts and still enjoy your day. And the moment people start letting go of the idea that everything must be certain before they can start living, something in the nervous system begins to soften. OCD tends to push the mind into extremes. Something is either safe or dangerous, right or wrong, certain or catastrophic. And the brain keeps trying to land on a definitive answer because certainty feels like the safety. But the problem is that most of life simply doesn't offer that kind of clarity. And the more that you demand it, the more stuck that you actually become. Part of the problem here is that the brain prefers clear answers. I remember when I was back at university and I was really struggling with the OCD, there was a particular event that I was really looking forward to. It was my graduation day and I was, really excited about it. Obviously, I've been working really hard up until that point, but the OCD was also excited about it because it saw graduation as an opportunity to come up and annoy me and frustrate me and do all of those things that it loves to do. And so, it started to kind of say to me, what if you get really negative thoughts on that graduation day? What if you can't feel present? What if you're going to feel nervous or anxious? And of course, what the brain wants is it wants to feel safe. It wants to know that that's not going to happen. And so what do you start doing? Well, you start ruminating ahead of time. You start thinking about all of the potential things that could go wrong. And you start to try to problem solve them, to go over each and every one, to look for the answer, to try to kind of make your brain settle and feel calm again. But of course, all we're actually doing is winding ourselves up. And we're making it much more likely that come the day, we are going to be anxious. We are going to be nervous, not because anything is actually wrong for us to feel that way, but because we've all kind of trained our brain to expect the negative thing to happen. When we think about something, in the days leading up to something that you care about, really what you're doing is you're giving more energy to the OCD and anxiety. And come that day, you're going to almost, find things to kind of ruminate on because you've been training yourself to do that. Anxiety tends to push people towards extremes because we don't allow, two things to be there at once. We basically want to put things into these black and white categories. Either I'm going to feel completely fine, I'm going to feel amazing, I'm going to feel great, or I'm going to have horrendous anxiety. And actually, what helps us to escape from that is learning that you can be at an event, such as I was on that particular graduation day, and you can allow some anxiety to be there. You can allow some intrusive thoughts to be there. It doesn't have to be black and white. It doesn't have to be, right, this is a really important day coming up for me. Therefore, I have to feel good the entire time. And if I'm not, then something is terribly wrong. Actually, that is a really extreme position that we're taking there. What we want to do instead is recognize that actually it's okay if there's some anxiety that comes up. It's okay if there's some moments where you're getting a bit lost in your thoughts. As long as you are more or less, trying to let that go and come back to the present as much as possible, even if it's a really important day for you, you can still appreciate that day, connect with all the people that are there, experience lots of really positive and exciting moments, but there may also be some anxiety that you have to bring along for the ride as well. There's an assumption that many people with OCD don't realize they're making. And the assumption is this: I can't feel okay until this is resolved. And once that belief takes hold, the mind becomes obsessed with solving that problem. But when people start recovering, they realize something surprising. The feeling of needing certainty was actually the thing creating the distress. I used to think that in order to be happy, in order to find peace from OCD, I had to find answers first. I had to ruminate on it enough. I had to think about it. In order to come to a valid conclusion that gave me enough certainty, that made me kind of feel okay. But, frustratingly, all I was actually doing in these situations was making it much, much worse. The more that you think about something, the more that you go round in the OCD cycle. If you think of a clock, at 12 o'clock, you get an obsessive thought. At 3 o'clock, you get huge anxiety about that. At 6 o'clock, you perform a compulsion because you really don't like that anxiety and you want to do something about it. And then at 9 o'clock, well, temporarily, you do feel a little bit better. But the unfortunate thing is you've basically said to yourself that thing that you were worrying about and thinking about, it really was bad because you had to problem solve it. You had to think about it more. You had to perform a compulsion in order to feel better about it. And therefore, you're going to feel that you need to keep doing that because that's the only thing that kind of makes you feel better. And this is what creates the kind of negative cycle that we get stuck in with OCD. The more that we think about the thing, we feel like we're fixing it. But in reality, frustratingly, all we're doing is strengthening it and making it worse. And that is the trap that, so many of us, myself included, get stuck in with OCD. Fortunately, I've learned how to let go of that these days. But it's something that really held me back for many years. And if you're struggling with this, I do have a 12-week program to help you to break free from OCD. You can find out more in the show notes. The good news is that as you begin to challenge that idea that you need certainty, as you begin to sit with the uncertainty and get on with your life anyway, when you focus on your values, your goals, all the things that you want to do, and you say to yourself, I'm going to allow a little bit more uncertainty here, and I'm going to get on anyway. As you do that, that helps you to challenge those negative beliefs that you have. You begin to realize that you can enjoy your life. You can get on with your day. You can be successful in your career or whatever it is that you want to do. You can have a great relationship, even with those fears there in the background. It's really about taking action, rather than thinking that you need to problem solve and solve this with your intellect. What it really involves is stepping back, finding space, pausing for a moment, and then committing to actual action in your life and allowing the discomfort of anxiety and uncertainty to be there in the background. And here's a quote: "The demand for certainty is one of the greatest enemies of happiness." Bertrand Russell. One of the most important shifts people make in recovery is realizing that opposite experiences can exist together. You can feel uncertainty and still have moments of peace. You can feel anxious and still move towards the things that matter to you. The mind tells us that discomfort must disappear first, but the body often proves otherwise when we allow it to. It's important to remember that opposing emotions can coexist at the same time. You can almost literally hold happiness, contentment in your hand alongside anxiety and stress, frustration, whatever it might be. Really, when we are demanding that we feel good all the time, or we feel a certain way all the time, or that we not have anxiety, we're causing ourselves physical and emotional discomfort. It's almost as if you imagine if you open up your hand and you're holding broken glass in your hand. If you just hold that in your hand and you observe it, which is like observing, these kind of coexisting emotions, happiness, contentment, present momentness, alongside anxiety or frustration or whatever it is. That's like holding the broken glass in your hand. You can see it, but it's not going to hurt you. You're getting on anyway. You're living your life despite the fact there's this kind of contradiction going on. The problem comes when we get angry about it and frustrated and we say, no, it's not allowed. I cannot have any difficult experiences because today is important to me. I want to feel in this particular way. But that's us trying to control too much and trying to say life should be like this or life should be like that. Unfortunately, life has a way of being however it wants to be, and we need to go along with the ride sometimes rather than trying to fight it to make it fit the mold that we kind of want to have. And so the way in which we do that is realizing that when you demand to feel a certain way, it's like you're kind of squeezing that broken glass in your hand. And of course, now you're bleeding, now you're hurting. This is really horrible. But the good news is that at any moment, you can open up your hand again. And when you do, well, it starts to heal. And, you're not going to have that pain anymore. You didn't even need to squeeze in the first place. And, just allowing that broken glass to be there, allowing these difficult sensations, realizing that you can be happy with these things in the background, it is a game changer because now you're developing this kind of psychological flexibility. In acceptance commitment therapy, there's this idea of learning how to be more psychologically flexible. When certain difficult things come up, we feel that we have to fight with them or get rid of them. And actually, this is rigidity. We're really kind of closing down. Getting over OCD and anxiety, in my experience, is all about opening up, to whatever experiences you're having and saying, you know what, I don't like this thing that much right now, but it's allowed to be there and I'm going to get on with my day anyway. When people stop trying to eliminate uncertainty, something interesting happens psychologically. The nervous system starts to calm down, not instantly, but gradually, because the brain learns that the uncertainty it was reacting to isn't actually dangerous. The fight itself was keeping the alarm system switched on. There's a famous quote by Carl Jung, and it's this: what we resist persists. Unfortunately, with anxiety, when we fight with it, when we push it away, when we try to push it down, typically what happens is it comes back twice as strong. If you imagine a beach ball that you're trying to hold underwater, and that beach ball is full of your emotions, your thoughts, the things that you don't like, and what you're doing is you're just fighting with it. You're trying to hold it down. Maybe you're going to be able to do that for a while, but of course you're going to get exhausted from all of that fighting. You're going to get really, really tired. And when you do, the beach ball doesn't just gently come back up to the surface. It comes right up to the surface and it's right in your face and it feels stronger than ever. And this is what we're doing, when we're fighting with uncertainty. We're just making the situation worse. And it's basically because we're resisting too much. We're not tolerating these difficult sensations in the body. We're not allowing the uncertainty to be. And we're trying to dictate to life again how things should be. When we open up and we say, you know what? Anxiety is here right now. Uncertainty is here. And I can practice tolerating and accepting that and choosing to focus my attention on more helpful things. That is really us taking back control from the OCD. When we're really in that mindset of, no, I have to feel certain. And, the OCD has you doing this, it has you doing that. Really, we're just giving away our power. We're saying, yes, OCD, you are my master. We're saying, yes, OCD, you are my master. I will do whatever you say. But of course, that's just going to keep us stuck in that cycle, indefinitely. Once we take back control and we show the OCD that actually we're the boss, we get to choose, how we deal with this. Anxiety is uncomfortable, but actually, you know what? We can deal with it. And once you start doing that, wow, it feels really good. You start feeling more empowered. You start realizing, that you don't have to keep doing the same old thing with OCD that maybe you've been doing for a long, long time. When people stop demanding certainty before they live their lives, things really expand again. Attention moves outwards, relationships improve, curiosity returns, and instead of life being a constant internal debate, it becomes something that you really participate in again, even with unanswered questions still there in the background. A huge part of this is learning how to shift your attention and your focus outwards. When we're really stuck on the inside and we're paying attention to the uncertainty, the doubt, our fears, our thoughts, we're monitoring all the time, of course we're going to keep on feeling stuck. If you can bring your attention much more to the people and the things in your life that you really care about, this is about shifting the focus of your attention to your values. Thinking about, what do I really care about right now in this moment? Because maybe there are some difficult emotions present, but you know what? I'm not going to allow that to dictate how I'm going to live my day today. I'm going to focus my attention as best I can on the people and things that are actually around me, even though I'm feeling anxiety and I'm feeling a little bit unsure. When you start to do that, you're demonstrating to your nervous system that the thoughts, the fears, the uncertainty isn't that important, and that actually the real stuff in your life, your actual values, your actual goals, those things are much more important, and therefore you're going to pay attention to those things. And as you keep doing that, you start noticing that, you're actually more present. You start noticing that you're enjoying yourself a little bit more, and it does get easier over time as you keep on practicing that. And I see so many of my clients experiencing this for themselves. When they begin, they're really struggling with being stuck in their heads and being stuck with their thoughts. And so often people do get disconnected from the good stuff in their life. When they learn the 3-step approach of acknowledging that they've been triggered by difficult thoughts and emotions, tolerating a little bit more those difficult emotions, and refocusing their attention onto what matters, their values and their goals, they begin to see that actually they do have much more choice over, how they feel. Because if they're paying attention more externally to what's going on, to people and things that they really care about, they do find themselves just living a bit more in the present and not paying so much attention to the discomfort of anxiety and uncertainty. It really comes down to the difference between solving life and actually living it. When we realize that, there isn't necessarily all these things that need to be fixed all the time, that life is there waiting for us. And as soon as we're willing to just put down, that thing, to stop trying to figure it out and just say, let's pay attention to whatever's in front of me right now. It's amazing, when you do that, how quickly you can actually begin to feel better. And if you're struggling with dealing with uncertainty, I do have a 12-week program to help you to overcome it. It includes one-to-one coaching sessions. There's weekly videos, worksheets, meditations, all sorts of things to help you to break free from OCD and anxiety. There's also a community platform and optional weekly group sessions, and people are having really great results. You can check out all of the testimonials on Google, or you can go to my website, www.robertjamescoaching.com, and you can book in there for a free discovery call. Many thanks, and I will see you next time. This video is for education only. It's not therapy or medical advice. If you're struggling, please speak with a licensed mental health professional.